Alrighty, my name is Cindy Jane, and I'm wanting to introduce you to my old friend, the ukulin. The ukulin is a hybrid instrument which was developed during the Depression era. And the idea was to combine two instruments into one. In this case, they combined the violin with the ukulele, thus the ukulin. A patent for the ukulin was awarded to a Mr. Paul Richter December 3rd, 1924. Later, he assigned the patent to the Piano Harp Company of East Boston, Massachusetts, and their subsidiaries sold the ukulins. Then, in 1926, the Piano Harp Company merged with Oscar Schmidt International of New Jersey, and they and their subsidiaries sold the ukulins. The idea was to make music simple for people not having a formal musical education. But based on the number of the abandoned ukulins, people found them frustrating. The ukulin and Violin-Ukes were sold by traveling salesmen representing Oscar Schmidt and also the Marxochime companies. The countryside of North Carolina was literally saturated with ukulins. The salesman would play some numbers on the ukulin. He would tell his prospect that it was the perfect instrument for the beginner, and oh yes, you could learn to play it in one day. And the other thing was, if you bought it now, you could buy it for half the price of what a music store would sell it for. Well, the reality was, they weren't sold in music stores. But for a short time, the Marx company did market them through Sears and Roebuck. And the price they sold for there was $35. However, the average retail price was $12.95 for ukulins. The Marx slogan was, "Anyone can play." In Michigan, a musical instrument dealer by the name of Keith Davis recorded the memories of two of his older clients. They remembered that the Violin-Ukes and ukulins were manufactured in Troy, Michigan, and they were sold off trains. In particular, they recalled that a short, fat salesman would get on the train with ukulins. Then when the train stopped, the ukulin salesman would hop off the train, run for the nearest feed store, bar, or hotel. He'd play up a storm, sell the ukulins for $15 each, and then he'd hop back on the train before it left. And this process was repeated at the very next stop until eventually he had his merchandise sold, and then he'd ride the train back to Troy, Michigan. Alternately, ukulins were sold on the installment plan. The salesman would leave the ukulin with a one-time payment booklet to the buyer. Then he would leave the area. Well, if the buyer remembered any of the tunes that he learned, he quickly forgot them. And unfortunately, the ukulin found its way into his closet or attic. So that was really sad. When Glenn Peterson, the president of Oscar Schmidt, learned of his salesman's unethical behavior, he halted production in 1964 of the ukulins. Thus ended the great Ukelin ripoff. Next, I'd like to tell you how I happened to get the ukulin. Well, it happened this way. My great uncle Frank Kilgore did play the ukulin, and when he was up in years, he decided that he was going to pass the ukulin on to either his nieces or his nephew, but he would only give it to the one who could play it. Now, my mother could play by ear. She was the only one who could play it, and so she got it. As time passed, the ukulin needed a rather pricey repair done, and that could only be done by the local luthier. Well, Mom decided she wasn't going to pay the price to have the repair done, so I saw my opportunity. I said, Mom, I'll pay for that repair if someday you will promise to give that ukulin to me. Well, she was glad to do that, and I was glad to know that one day the ukulin would be mine. Well, there was a man in our neighborhood who collected antique instruments, and he knew that Mom had an antique mandolin. It did need some repair done, but he had a ukulin. And so he said to my mother, would she be willing to trade that mandolin for his ukulin? Well, she was glad to do that. And the neat part of it was, with the two ukulins, Mom and I could play ukulin duets. In fact, we played the ukulin duet at church a few times, and that was fun. Now, I want to read a description with which someone wrote down that I think is really a pretty good description for the ukulin. Here's what they said. The ukulin is a satisfying instrument to play, haunting to listen to, and a demon to tune. Well, that's where I differ. Yes, it has 32 strings, but you just need a little patience, that's all. And it might be a little bit tedious to tune, but certainly not a demon to tune. Well, the description went on. Strike a ukulin string with a bow, and immediately you're transported. Each eerie note lingers in the air, and immediately you're transported. The resonance suggests cathedral-like vast spaces. Strings respond sympathetically, glistening highs and sonorous lows. The primitive bow on the metal strings sounds familiar, yet distant in time. I would say it's kind of like being transported back into yesteryear. Well, to tell you a little more about the ukulin itself, it is a key of C instrument. It does not have sharps or flats. The range of it is 2 octaves. The melody is formed by playing the strings that are between the metal guides. So that gives you the melody. A little bow would typically come with the ukulin. Now the bow I'm using is a 1/16 inch size violin bow, and it works very well. I do have an original ukulin bow like this, but I don't know if you can see it that well or not. It needs to be rehaired. And there's where you can run into a bit of a problem, because the rehairing job is rather expensive. So you could actually buy the little violin bow for less than what it would cost you to have a rehair job done. And oh, by the way, the little violin bow is of a better quality than the ukulin bow that would typically come with the instrument. Now the accompaniment on the ukulin is formed from 4 different chords, and I'm using a little guitar pick to pluck those chords, but here's what it sounds like. What I really like about the ukulin is that you can play quite a few of the old traditional hymns. And I am going to play for you "'Tis So Sweet to Trust in Jesus," "What a Friend We Have in Jesus," and "Higher Ground." "'Tis so sweet to trust in Jesus, just to rest upon His word, just to lay upon His promise, just to know thus saith the Lord. Jesus, Jesus, how I trust Him, how I've proved Him o'er and o'er. Jesus, Jesus, precious Jesus, oh, for grace to trust Him more. What a friend we have in Jesus, all our sins and griefs to bear. What a privilege to carry everything to God in prayer. Oh, what peace we often forfeit. Oh, what needless pain we bear. Oh, God carry everything to God in prayer. Pressing on the upward way, new heights I'm gaining every day, and praying as I'm upward bound. Lord, plant my feet on higher ground. Lord, lift me up and let me stand by faith on heaven's tableland, a higher plane than I have found. Lord, plant my feet on higher ground. Some other things I want to tell you about the ukulin. Typically, the ukulin would come in a cardboard box. It would include a tuning key, which you would just slip over the tops of these pegs on either end. You could also get a little wire music holder, which would slip in. It would slip into the holes here, and it would hold your music for you. Included would typically be a music book, and it was play by number, pretty easy to use. And then also there could be a little music catalog that would tell you the different pieces you could play by number on the ukulin. And it would also include like a little paper stating a warranty on the instrument, a sheet telling you other items that you could order for the ukulin, like you could order a case instead of the cardboard box, just some things like that. And you can still buy ukulins today. If you go on eBay, you will see ukulins for sale on eBay. But here's the thing. You need to ask questions. You want to make sure that if the ukulin has cracks in it, that those cracks do not extend up to the tuning pegs, because that could result in a pricey repair. You want to make sure that the seams on the instrument are tight. But those are the main things, to be mindful of. The good part of it is the strings of the ukulin really last, because I've had ukulins for years. I've had ukulins since the 60s. Have never had a string to go. So that is good. Well, I hope through my sharing information with you about the ukulin that you might be inspired to go look up one yourself and just have the enjoyment of playing the instrument. Thank you for making the time to get acquainted with my old friend, and I do wish you very much the best. And hopefully you will find one that you will enjoy playing it. Bye-bye for now.